Sandeep, you have to share the permission to share the screen. Okay. Okay, guys. Last class we have talked about the working. I mean, the we have talked about a couple of things in last class. That is like installation of the Ansible, and then we have talked about the architecture diagram, and then we have tried one or two couple of ad hoc commands. Okay, that was one or two only. We have talked about the host file. We have talked about a little bit example of the Ansible and all, right? So, but let's repeat, or let's spend a few more minutes for that on the architecture and what we have discussed on the last class, and then we'll continue on the ad hoc commands as well as the playbooks, which involves the variables, ansibles and all. Okay, Ansible playbooks and all here. Okay, just a minute. Okay, I think we have drawn a diagram on the web notepad, but fine. Okay, first let's understand or spend the time on the architecture diagram of the Ansible. Okay, we already discussed, but still, I just want to repeat one more time for 1 or 2 minutes of this. Okay, so here, uh, let me take the simple example. Okay, I think this could be, yeah, I think this is a simple one. Okay, there is a one mission which is nothing but a Ansible managed node or master node. We'll call this as a master node or Ansible managed node, which means the playbooks that we do execute from this mission alone. Okay, so for example, if we write some tasks in Ansible, if we want to install a web server in any of the remote missions, right? The main purpose of the Ansible here is that we have to be install any software or any tool or any configure any of the tool, right? If we want to do configure the web tool or any of the things in a multiple missions, we do use one of the configuration management tool, that is the Ansible. And you need to mention, I mean, you need to define your inventory file, which is nothing but a file which contains a list of remote IP addresses in the form of a plain host or in the form of a groups. Okay, so this contains all the remote nodes. For example, in this diagram, we have talked about the host 1, host 2, host 3, and they have categorized the host 1 will come under the group A, and the host 2 will come under the group B, and host 3 will come under the group C. They have defined all these groups with a single instances alone. In general, we do have a web servers or production servers or staging servers. We do have a group names like this, not the group A, group B, group C, something like that. Okay, so we just need to mention this inventory file, I mean, which contains a remote nodes IP addresses, and a playbook is nothing but a list of tasks. A task is nothing but a module is nothing but for example, if you take an example of users, creating a users in a Linux, what is the command that we do use? We use a add user or user add mod user. So these are all the commands, right? Each command is nothing but a module in the Ansible playbook. For example, if you want to copy in a mission, if you want to copy a file or a folder into a mission, right? What do we use? We use a cp command. Similarly, in Ansible also we do have a copy module. So in a Linux, if you compare the Linux, each command is like a module in a Ansible. Okay, so and if we have a list of such kind of modules written in a one file that is in the YAML format, that is called the playbook. Okay, these two things will be present on the management node. And once we do have a definition of the playbook, which is nothing but a list of tasks, and inventory file which contains a remote list, we will execute or we will run from the Ansible management node. Once we run it, what does it do is it will just go and install, or it will just work on all the remote missions which has mentioned in the inventory file. This is how it will work. The dependency of this is the host mission should have a SSH connection to be enabled. Either it could be password based or key based or passwordless authentication, but it should have a SSH enabled, because the Ansible works underneath the Python and SSH based only. You don't need to configure any agents on the remote missions. That is the beauty of it. If you take a Chef or Puppet, right, what you need to do is, even though you install the Ansible, even though if you install or if you have a mission which contains a Puppet or Chef, in the remote missions you have to configure some kind of a agent. But in case of Ansible, you don't need to install a specific thing, anything on the remote missions. You just make sure the remote mission should have a Python and as well as a SSH connection enabled. That's it. You don't need to specify anything. Okay, this is how it will work. Now what I do is, I'll take this in our case. I do have a, this is 22.04 is my Ansible manage node or master node, and I'll use this as a remote mission. So here in an example, they have a host 1, host 2, host 3, right? Here I do have only one host, so I'm managing this one via from master node by writing a playbooks. Now let me start off all these things here. Okay. So what I've done is I have cloned it. So I'm using one as a master node and another one is uh, a remote mission. So what I'm going to do is I'll write a playbook in this server to 22.04, and that playbook will install the web server in the cloned mission. Okay, by writing a playbook from a master node. Okay, so this is what it is going to be. Do it. Okay. Now let it be back. So we will walk through that. Okay, so this is what we want. And now before that, what we'll do is we have talked about the Ansible ad hoc commands, right? So we have, I think, live class now somewhere, I guess. Okay, same thing only. Okay, but fine. Okay, we have talked about the same again. I mean, we have talked the similar same thing in the last class also, but I'm just repeating one more time here. So the first one contains, let's see the command. Yeah. Okay, the first one contains, see, the way how we learn is, first we learn about the ad hoc commands. Ad hoc is nothing but on the fly, like we don't need to write any specific playbooks and all. And then we will learn about the Ansible playbook, Ansible ad hoc command, Ansible playbook. Okay, and we learn about Ansible roles. Okay, and this is nothing but a in a ad hoc commands. What we do is we will be knowing, finding a way, like we will be knowing how to use a module. That is what we are going to learn in the ad hoc commands, and we will knowing here how to use multiple modules in the form of tasks. Okay, here you will use a multiple modules and create a role. Role is nothing but a you you would be defining your own a module which use a multiple modules and create a module also basically, and which is nothing but a creating a role here. So here what we do is, now we are in this stage. Now we will talk about this also here. First, now let's see the Ansible modules here. Just 1 minute, guys. Ansible module. Uh, Ansible. I mean, basically, what we do is we will use a command for ad hoc commands. We will use a -i host file, okay, and -m the module name, and -a the argument name, and equal to argument value. So this is the syntax of using this one. See, this is what it is saying here. Ansible, the command, and a group name which you would be defining in the Ansible host file, and a module and its respect to arguments. This is what we have learned. Okay, now what we'll do is we'll do the same thing, 1 or 2 commands here. Okay, so first let me find out. Okay, this is 104 as usual. PowerShell. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to log into the PowerShell to these 2 missions. Okay, so here it is 104, and here we are in, okay, we are in, okay, Ansible learning, and we are going to use 105. I think let's find out what is another one here. Okay, what is this? Okay, I think it got stuck here. Let's close this and start again. So we can use any of the ad hoc commands basically. Okay, so what you need to do is, see, for example, this guy has used one of the module called a copy, and for transferring a file. Okay, he's used -m. -m is for the module. Hey Ansible, use a module called copy, and it required 2 arguments. One is a source and another one is a destination. So this source is nothing but the path of a file which is consist inside a mission in the master node, and this is a destination path where in the it will copy in the remote mission. So this takes a 2 arguments here. Okay, now let's see become a rock or not here. Okay, once this is done, he is also using something like Ansible, the group name which is inside a group, I mean group name which is inside a host file, and it is using a module called a file. What does it do is it will just create a file under this path with this name of this mode and this user and this group. Okay, these are the arguments which has to be provided if we want to use a file module. Okay, and this required a 4 parameters as a mandatory. One is a destination, I think 2 is mandatory, but they have mentioned how to use the other things also. If you want to know how many modules are there and what are the parameters that we want to use, right, I'll show you that also. Let me log into this machine and then we will see here. Okay, yeah, the IP address is 105. So what I'm gonna logging in is here. Okay, I'm inside of this now. Okay, what I'm gonna do is there is a Ansible host. Here we have a mention, a list of IP addresses day before yesterday, right? Now what I'll do is I'll define a group called remote one. This is my group name. The IP address is, this is 105, right? What I'll do is 9.168.0.105 and Ansible connection equal to SSH, and the user for that remote mission says learner. We are going to use a password based authentication, and the password is the same as the username here, and this is my group name. I have just defined a group now. Okay, I think I should have a permissions, but fine. Now let me copy this and then okay, now what I'll do is I'll use a, now 104 I'm using as a master node. Okay, now I'm going to add a group similarly here, remote1 t remote one. Okay, so now this is good. Now let's see how do we apply. Now what we are doing is we will be applying a module onto a remote mission, that remote mission under the group called remote one. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy one of the file here. So what I'll do is, let's see whether it's really copying or not here. So what I'm gonna do is here there is a, okay, there is a file called my host. Okay, so okay, what I'll do is I'll just do this stuff. Hello, this is test file test.txt. Okay, let's see whether it is really created or not. Okay, there is a file called test.txt, and this is the 105 mission which I want to copy here. I want to copy under the here itself. There is no test file.txt, right? Now I'll be copying that. Okay, now where I need to copy home learner. This is the path where I have to copy in this mission. Okay, now what I'll do is Ansible, the group name is what? Remote one, which we have defined under the Ansible module. So now what I'll do is I need to use a module called -m. I mean, the module name is copy, and which is going to take two arguments. One is src and destination. Okay, src required a path. In the current directory, there is a file called test.txt, and the destination path it has to copy is under home/learner. Yeah, home/learner. This is where it has to copy. Now let's see what is going to happen here. Okay, so what it is saying, it is failed SSH using a password instead of, I think we are missing one parameter, that is like, let's see this here. Okay, so Okay, it still is not able to do that. Please add this host string over to your management host. So when you are logging into the, when you are doing operations into the remote mission, there are three ways which I have been told you, right? If you remember, while logging into this mission from this, it is saying, if you see here, it is asking us to add this fingerprint in our host list. That's why it is throwing, it can't able to do the same operation from here. Okay, so if you remember here, when I'm doing SSH, it is saying, I'm gonna add this address to your finger as a fingerprint. Do you want yes or no? Right, what then it is added. Now this one is not able to doing via Ansible. What I'll do is, to make sure this to be happen, I'll just manually log into this, and then that issue will be get resolved. Okay, because I'm just doing manually. Okay, I'm done here. Okay, now I'll come out of this mission, and then now, as usual, I'll be asking, I'll be running this answer. Okay, still it is not able to do this. Why? Let me open this. Sudo nano etc host file. Ansible host. Ansible connection, SSH, Ansible SSH user equal to learner, Ansible SSH is pass equal to this one. But still we are getting, because now let's see if that works. If still we are getting, we should be, I don't know, it's when we do a manually, right? It should do that. Okay, I'll make sure this one. Ansible. Yes, so this is a common. Okay, in this one, host checking false. See, either you need to configure this or you have to fix from the remote missions. Under the ansible.config file, making sure they are asking us to check the host checking to be false. We can do this way, or else we can pass an argument. We can pass environment variables. This is also fine here. Okay, let's do one thing. The best way is, see what this guy is doing. First he is exporting this, and then he is running it. As a permanent solution, what we'll do is, we will be running in the here itself. Okay, we'll add this thing to the path here. Now add this. Now let's try and run this. Okay, looks like it is going. Yeah, see here, changed. The earlier, if you'd always been used, there is something happened called OK, meaning successfully execute. Now, because of you executed this command, which is writing something, that is why it is showing a change here. Now let's go and check in this location whether it is really copied or not. Here, if you see here, yeah, test.txt. txt. Okay, now let me check the timestamp out of it. Yeah, timestamp is this now, which is very recently 2:24. Now let's, yeah, 2:25 is the time now, and 1 minute back it is copied, this one. Okay, and even from an output itself we can get, okay, the fact is this, and change it is true. If the file is already been presented, it would have been changed. It we got a okay, and change it is a false, because there is a file is already presented under the txt. This is how we do use a module. Okay, now let's use another module called he has given a yum module. Now what we do is, for example, in this mission, I'll try to install a HTTPD server using a APT package, APT module. If I don't know how to use a APT module, we can find out, go and document. Basically, -m APT -a name is HTTPD or Apache 2, and the stage to be present or latest. This is the syntax of using APT, but we can still find out, but this is also would be helpful. Add a Ansible modules list. You can just present here, and if like in a Terraform we have mentioned, right? Similarly, we can in a Terraform we have a providers, right? Here we have a modules. Now what I'll do is what APT module. See this APT management. This is what we want. We won't go with this APT key or repo or repository or RPM, because APT module we would be using to install a tool. Okay. Now this manages the APT packages. Okay. And this is what it is going to do on the Debian and Ubuntu based. If it is a RHEL or OpenSUSE or some other flavor of Ubuntu, this APT wouldn't have been worked out. Okay. And this APT module will work only if it has Python 3 and of these versions, Python 2, Python 3, and before APT version of 2.4. And it required these many not required, it uses these, it has these many parameters. And let's see what are all being used as a required here. They would have mentioned the required also here. Let's find where it is required. See, ignore if the package cannot be unauthenticated. This is useful for bootstrapping. And choices no or yes. And if yes, auto clean, meaning it will just cleans the local repository before installing it. And it also allows the two values, either no or yes here. And there is something called auto remove. What does it mean is, before installing it, if there is already presented, it will just remove the unused dependencies, which is not used, and then install it. So these many arguments that you can provide here. Let's see what are all required here. Yeah. So okay, I think all are optional. Okay, but we should be doing that also, meaning if we select any other module, it would also mention some modules are at least mandatory, but this module requires, nothing, no arguments are mandatory here. Okay, now let's see, let's construct this. What I'm going to do is here systemctl Apache 2 or status Apache 2. So this is what I'm trying to check whether the status has been, Apache 2 is there or not. What I'll do is I'll install via play ad hoc commands here. So now same thing. So Ansible, a group name called remote one, which is I mentioned in the host file. Use a module called, what is the module name here? APT, and this is going to require a couple of parameters. First one is name, name equal to Apache 2. Apache 2, this is name, and state should be present. Okay, now let's make sure why the state here. So a state is a parameter which will make sure whether it has been installed. It will tell us no, it will tell us whether it has been installed or not installed, whether it is a old one. So it will find all these 5 choices. Each choice will have a different meaning here. Okay, so now let's see, indicates a desired package state. Okay, latest, ensure the latest version is installed. build dependency ensures the build dependencies are also installed. Meaning sometimes when we are installing any of the package in our Ubuntu machine, it required their dependencies also. It will, if we use a build dependency, meaning it will also install the their dependency also here. Okay, and latest, make sure it will have a latest one, and present will make sure it will install it. Okay, and here they have given a arrow mark. Arrow mark means this is a by default one. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just go with this alone. So I'll leave about other things, but still we can check if we want to use any of this stuff, right? They have given a playbook example, not ad hoc commands. Okay, so but we are trying a ad hoc related. Okay, so now let's see and then see what is happening here. Okay, finally it is failed because this guy is clearly saying operation denied, which means the user does not have a permissions to install a to install the Apache server because he is not a root user. Now let's make that guy as in the root user. Okay. Generally, if we are using a playbook, right, in that, well, when we are defining a task itself, what we do is we will be using a one more variable called become equal to yes, meaning it will use a root user. Now, what I'll do is ask pass. Let's see if this works. There it goes. I think no, but still we can try. Yeah. So again, it is a permission denied. Now let's make this user ad hoc Ansible ad hoc command with sudo users. So we can run this with the sudo command itself. Okay. Yeah, then we can pass. Instead of asks pass alone, we can use either ask become pass or ask sudo pass. As I mentioned you right here in Ansible modules, I mean in while writing a playbook, there is a variable called become equal to yes, right? The same thing we can pass with the command, I mean ad hoc commands. So now let's redo this. Ask become pass. Now let's see become pass. So while installing in the remote machine, it would have been given the same thing here. Okay. So doesn't work. Permission currently code is on module docker info. My user -user is this guy and ask become pass. If you have a shade for your server, you are going to want to use a root user. You can further reduce the command to this also. Ansible -all docker info -u user become. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll follow the same thing. Instead of providing a user from the host file itself, let's pass -u. User is learner, and he is also passing one more parameter called become and ask become pass. Let's see what is happening. Looks like it's going, but let's see. Yeah, looks like it is going, because if you see here, previous command was not found. While in the process, I just checked whether it is really happening or not. It looks like failing, but still okay. But the Ansible is properly is going fine, and that's fine. Now let's see what Ansible will be returning as an output for your ad hoc comments. Okay, yeah, like it's everything is done. See, this is an output for Ansible ad hoc command to install a Apache 2 server on a remote mission with the sudoers user. Okay. Now, let's understand the result of it, because we have to spend some time on understanding the result also here. Okay. The same thing. The status is changed. If it is a okay, does it mean is, what does it mean is, it is saying that the intention of this command is done, I mean successfully executed. But if it is changing in the remote mission, then it will give you the changed mode. If it is, for example, if Apache 2 is already there, it would have given you the okay message instead of a change, because it is not going to install it. Since it does not find any of the Apache version of previous one, it install the Apache version on the remote mission and then come back. So let's see the output of here. So if you see here, the entire output is in the JSON format. In a real time, what we do is we will read this entire JSON and find a specific version of or specific key of the output here. For example, if while working, right, we will be reading out what is a standard error and what is the standard output. If the length of the standard error key is greater than 0, meaning there is a this is fail. This is how we do calculate it here. Meaning basically we will read the entire output of this also. So now let's see what is the standard output. Yeah, this is as usual. When we do apt-get install, it will give you the updating the package, and then it will ask you whether should I go or not, right? Same thing. Yeah. So this is in the line by line mode. Yeah. So this is how it is working in how it is installed there itself. Okay. Finally, this is a command or ad hoc command, and then this is ad hoc command we will be using in the to install a Apache 2 server in a remote mission. When do we use a playbook? And I mean, we are going to learn the playbook now, but still, if you want to know, so when do you use the ad hoc commands and when do you write a playbooks? Generally, if it is a small module, if you want to check quickly, what you do is you will write a Ansible ad hoc commands. But in case of if you want to rewrite the software, if you want to configure something in the remote mission, in a in a very huge numbers and in the terms of a project task, right, then you start writing a playbook. And even the playbook is not here, only task for you is just installing the software. But if you want to combine tasks, for example, first you install the software, Apache 2 software, then configure a web root file. After configuring the web root file, copy the source code and then restart the Apache server. These are the multiple tasks you have, right? So you can't do that with a single remote, I mean single ad hoc commands. You have to write a playbook for that. So okay, so similarly we will be now see how to write a playbook here. Okay, but before writing a playbook, there are some basics that you need to understand about the playbook, which is are very important. Okay, now let's read that also here. Now let's take the example of ad hoc, I mean Ansible documentation itself. So we will be easily understandable here. Okay, Ansible rules. Yeah, before going the documentation, this is easy to understand. If you go to the documentation, there are unnecessary things that you also have to understand. That's why you better go with any of the other easy tutorial point. It will help you what is required for the entire Ansible roles here. Sorry, not the roles here. I mean to say the playbooks. Yeah, here it is the playbook. Several playbooks here. Yeah, here. All are the same here. Okay. Yeah, this guy has given a good thing. So a playbook is a file. Okay. The playbook is a file which you will be writing in the YAML format. For example, Apache 2 web.yaml. This is your playbook name. Okay. And once you have write your playbook, what you do is you have to start with the 3 hyphens. This means okay, this file is a YAML format. Okay, and we have talked about the syntax all in the last class, meaning we should be defining a list of files here. Okay, so list 1, list 2, list 3, list 3. And if the list 1 contains any sub properties, what you do is you just press a tab or with the 2 spaces or 1 spaces. For example, L1 property 1, L1 property 2, L1 property 3. So this is how you do, right? Okay, I'll give an example now here itself. For example, let's take an employees here. There is a employees playbook. This is my playbook name .yaml, and which I'm going to write a definition 3 hyphens, which means this text is in the YAML format, and it is going to have a list of employees. Okay, employee 1, and this employee has a properties called name, and this employee also having emp id. This employee also have a emp, designation, and this employee will have a address. Okay, so similarly another employee 2, another list, name, emp id, designation, address. Okay, this is how you would be defining your list of items in the playbook. Now let's convert in the real time here itself. Okay, so similarly, now let's take this is a, you can say this is a task 1. You have given a task 1, task 2. Task 1 is just print out the employee 1 details. Task 2 is the employee 2 details. Okay. Now, along with that, what you would be writing here is, if you remember, the command for this is Ansible -i. The group name is remote 1. What does it refers? It is a group name. It is a group name. Let's take the, it is a group name in the host file. Then a module apt, and this is going to arguments. Argument is name equal to Apache 2, and state should be present or installer or development. Then what we have done is we have used -u use called module, and then what we have done is we have used the become, and then it is asking ask become password. These are the arguments that we have given for the previous command. Now let's write a playbook for the similar command with the above syntax like this, employee. Okay, now let me write here. So web install playbook.yaml. This is my YAML file. What I'll do is I'll just do this, meaning I'm going to write in the YAML file. This is what it is. Okay. Now, the first thing is what you define is there is something called name, the first task name. Okay. Task is installer Apache server on a install Apache server on a remote mission. This is the name, and the task for that is use that is apt. Okay, this is the first thing, and it required 2 parameters. One is a state. State should be present. So this is the simplest. This is nothing but a task 1. Okay. For example, once you have installed, I'm writing another task. the task is nothing but now you have written a how to install thing. Now if I ask you to write ad hoc command for uh, restarting a mission, right? What you do, -m, what you is systemctl -argument name equal to Apache 2 and state should be restart. So this is a command that we do use if we want to restart any of the Apache 2 server or any of the thing. I guess now let me check the module of the systemctl whether I'll be having it or not. Ansible module restart a service. Okay, here name and state. It is also required a name and state here. State should be started, stopped, restarted. Okay, here restarted. So this is a command that we do use if we want to write a same thing. Become and ask become pass, meaning whenever it is going to go. This is a command that we want to write a for restarting a Apache. Now let's convert into a task. Task is nothing but a play. Okay, name equal to restart Apache 2 server on a remote mission. This is my task name. And for that, I'm going to use a module called system, I guess. What is that? Service, not a, yeah, this is the old service module. Service, and this required two parameters. One is the state. Here also one more thing. Here also we missed Apache 2. This is the first task. And name of this service I want to restart is Apache 2. And that state should be restarted. These are the two tasks which my playbook contains. And this is how I converted an ad hoc command to a playbook now. Like this, a playbook is a YAML file which contains a list of tasks. What is the task again? A task is a usage of a module. What is the module in this case? apt module. And this required two parameters. One is the name and another one is the state. Another task which I was using is restarting a service, and this requires a parameters called name and state like the above one. Now let's come to this point here. What about now in the ad hoc commands we have used a module, we have used the resources. Now what about become and what about the groups here, right? So now let's see how we will be mentioning these things in the playbook itself. Now if you go to the example of any of the Ansible playbook, they would have been given here. This is one. Okay, so these are the three parameters. The first one is name. First one is the name. Install Apache 2 and restart web server. This is the one. And next argument is the host. Host means in the host file we have mentioned something called remote one right here. This is a group. This is where we have mentioned. If we want to execute this playbook entirely in all the remote nodes which is mentioned in the host file, you just need to mention all instead of a group name. For example, if I want to specify, if I want to execute or if I want to install this only on a specific group, I'll mention the group name alone here. If I want to install for all, right, I'll just mention all here. For now, let me mention remote one. This is the group. And next one is become yes. What does it mean is here we are asking become, right? The same thing we will be defined here, become yes. Okay, what does it mean is we will be using a sudo password, right? I mean, it will execute these tasks as a sudo verse user. That is why that is required a become yes. What does it mean is it will internally apply the sudo command when it is executing the task. Okay, in the playbook it has a name, and then it has a group of list where it has to run it, and then the permissions of that task to be executed. Now this contains, as I mentioned, tasks, right? This is a tasks keyword, and all this will come as a something like this task here, right? This is I mean, okay, generally this is one, two. You have to follow the same indentation. Okay, this is how it should be required your entire playbook. Now let's copy and see. First, before that, we will check whether since I have written in the notepad, right? First, I'll check whether are there any syntax error in there or not. First, what I'll do is YAML syntax checker online. I'll use this one to validate my YAML definition. Okay, now go and check. Yeah, there is something which is under the line number 11. This is a very baddest thing part. I mean, baddest thing means what do you say? Um, uh, it will play like anything if we don't have if you don't follow any syntaxes. Okay, now let's take an example of any of the existing Ansible role, and then we will see here, not role here, Ansible playbook. What are these guys saying? Let's see. Implicit map keys needed followed by a map value set line number 7. Okay, okay, now let's see. Okay, line number 15 here also. This is the one. Okay, this is a valid UML file. Now let's create this. Now what I'm, as I mentioned here, right? Now I'll write the playbook here itself. Nano install tool.yaml file, and this is a code for that. Okay, so I'm saving it here. So once you have run it, what you should do is to run this playbook, Ansible playbook -i host file and the playbook name, like what is that? Install tool.yaml, right? The same thing. Install tool.yaml. So this is a command you should be using it here. Ansible playbook -i host, and what is that? Install.tool.yaml. Let's see. Yeah. So finally it is failed at, it is saying that line 2 column 1, but may be elsewhere in file depending on the exact syntax problem. So if we want to check something, right? Same thing. There is something called check, not check. What it is saying is line number 2. Now let's see and open if there is any issue. Control W, no. Where is, where not where is current position I want. So location currency, yeah, line number 2, it is saying here itself, name, host. Now let's take an example of the given one. Actually, syntax is validated, but it is failing at the logic level. Now let's see this also here. Okay. So what these guys are saying is, I found one thing. This one should be, okay, either I'll remove these things or else we need to format it again. Okay, line 1, but maybe ensure exact symbol. Playbook must be a list of plays, got a mapping instead. Okay. So meaning we should be getting a, so we should be checking. Okay, tasks. Okay, all should be in this one. Now let's follow the same one here. Okay, and what next? And the name of this is, and the tasks here. Okay, so it's able to pick all the things, but it is failed at host file. So we don't need to mention this. By default, it will take it. Now let's execute this. Now it is executing something. The first playbook name is install Apache 2 and restart web server. And when a task is getting performed, it is getting failed with missing sudo password. What I'll do is I'll use become ask become pass. I'll provide these two arguments and let's see. Yeah, it is getting gathering the facts. First it will gather the facts, and okay, error, the field post is required but was not set. So we have mentioned here, right? Did we mention anywhere? Okay. Post, we have mentioned it, right? Then why it is complaining here? Now let's check. Yeah, host equal to prod unknown. Now instead of remote one, I'll just give a all here. And then let's try and do this part. Okay, it is failed all. Post is required. Now let's try and fix this there. Because we already mentioned it part in Ansible. Okay. So what the point is, this is also required to post here. And here instead of all, what I'll do is, sorry, all I'll mention and then try here. But we have mentioned it, right? No. Post we have mentioned, but still it is not picking up. And we don't require. We don't require of this also, but still why it is complaining about the host. The field host is required but was not set. So yeah, the spelling is correct only, right? Okay, host all. Okay, now let's see this. Post this to this. Yeah, Red Hat remote user. Secondly, first of all, indent everything on the same level. Okay, that's fine. We have indentation is same on the same level. And what else next? And the tasks. Okay, what I'll do is, as this guy mentioned, I'll put this guy under this. I'll put a proper indentation. Okay, now let's see. Yeah. Yeah, basically there are a lot of syntaxes errors also we'll be getting. So here we should be properly, I mean, the syntax looks fine. You have seen, if you remember, we have used online checker, everything, but the logical is part is missing. But no issue. I'll fix that, and tomorrow we'll continue from tomorrow, say from here itself, and then we'll continue from there. Tomorrow, what we'll do is we will be learning about we will write another playbook, and then we'll start writing the roles also. Before learning the roles, we have to use the vars also here, and we have learned about ad hoc commands and modules and vars also. No, not vars. We have not discussed the vars yet. We are in the learning of a playbooks. We will write along. We will fix this playbook issue, and then we will write one more playbook, and then we will go for the roles of them. Okay, that's it, guys, for today. Any questions, Saranya? Let me know if you have any questions. Okay, fine. So we